Industrial manufacturing industry, it's a male-dominated space, but women are up and coming. One of the ways that you can enhance and get rich results for your business or your organization is to do schema on your company. If you are not using internal linking on your website, you are missing out on an opportunity. Everybody wants to be heard, right? Everybody wants to know that they're proving their worth and that they're appreciated for the job that they're doing. Thank you. See you on the flip side. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of Intersecting Industries. Today, we're going to be sitting down with Jessica Wilber from TAKT Manufacturing Solutions. I'd like to welcome Jessica to the show.
Hey,
Hi,
everybody.
Jessica.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I hope you are.
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Well, shall we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been in business since August of 2022. You have been in machining for 8 years, and you have been in manufacturing for 14 years.
Yeah.
That's quite the career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For being 34, yeah, I started when I was 20.
Yeah. I mean, went right into it.
Yes. Yeah.
So
college. Yeah.
So tell us how TAKT came to be and what services exactly you provide.
Sure. With my 8 years of CNC machining experience, I slowly realized that machine shops predominantly don't have a salesperson or customer service person that really builds that relationship with clientele and customers. So I decided to branch out on my own and become a sales organization for machine shops to help them grow their business without spending any money with us, which is really helpful for them because sales can always be quite the overhead amount monthly and annually, you know, and you also don't know if you get a return on your investment or not once you hire a salesperson who could be a six-figure role. So I decided to branch out. We're an extension of machine shops and other manufacturers because we do sheet metal and fabrication as well. So we are essentially a VP of sales for those companies that we've decided to partner with. And then on the buyer side of things, we help buyers by not having to send 40 emails per part. I can't imagine what their outlook looks like on a daily basis. So they send one email and then TAKT goes out and helps them strategically source their parts so they can get a quote within 24 hours and move that part off their desk pretty seamlessly and efficiently.
Well, and so obviously, since machine shops don't have salespeople, you're really providing a wonderful experience for them because you're one-stop shop and you know your business. Yeah. I was going to say another word and then I had to stop myself. So, so in our conversation, we talked about a lot of things, but one of the things we talked about was you're very collaborative with the machine shops that you work with. And so what sets you apart from like the Xometries of the world?
Oh, sure. So on the machine shop side, so machine shop working with Xometry versus TAKT. Xometry tends to, or Proto Labs or all those kind of like quick parts fast now, print them out and get them tomorrow. They will send the same part to 400 different shops to bid them out. And what we do is I look at the print, I read the tolerancing, I know exactly who needs to make that part. I know exactly who has a machine open to fit the lead time that's required and what shop can fit the budget. So I send it to one shop and that one shop will quote it and we will move on that way. So it pinpoints the machine shop and it really targets their sweet spots, which allows them to quote fast. You're not sending it out to 400 places, waiting for all those places to come back for the best pricing, because you can't always have, you can have two, right? Price, lead time, and quality. You can't have all three. So just depending on what the buyer's needs are, we're able to really pinpoint exactly who can make that part for them based on their price, lead time, and then the quality, which would be like the tolerancing and any outside processing that's required. So it sets us apart from Xometry because we're just not inundating the industry. Buyers do that enough on a daily basis, especially the buyers who require 3 bids per part. So we try not to do that, and we really want to service our machine shops and stick to our strategic partners and make sure we're supporting them 100%.
Yeah, and you brought up another point though when we were talking that I thought was very interesting, and that is that you relationship build not only with the companies that you work with or partner with, but also with their employees.
Sure. Yeah, we do it on the buyer side as well. A lot of people forget when, everyone's in customer service, every single company that exists, right, at a certain level. But a lot of people forget in our industry, when a buyer is sourcing parts, they're doing their best to decide who's going to be the best vendor for them. Technical competency may or may not be there, depending on the tenure of the buyer. Normally, they don't even have time to think about what that part even does, how it's going to be made. They just know, okay, it's a machined part. I send it to 3 different places. This is what I do. With that, buyers' strategic goals annually are always vendor performance, and that's their performance evaluation is based on vendor performance. So, Mr. Buyer, if my job is to make sure you get your raise, why would it not be that we work hand in hand together and we talk all the time? We know each other. We get down in the dirty together. We go through hard times together. It's really important for me to know that my buyers know that I have their back, as well as the partners that we have on my team, and the shops that we work with. And we take that really seriously because their projection on what they're going to do in their company and how fast they grow within their company is a lot depictive on their vendor performance. So it's critical for us to perform for them.
Right, because it's a win-win all the way around.
For sure.
Yeah. And I know that, from our conversation, that's very much a priority for you.
Yeah, it's even, working in a machine shop, because I have a couple of times, but when we're sourcing raw material, like when my raw material doesn't show up on time, then I'm going to be late to the customer because my machine's sitting and I have to fill that machine with something else. So anything that you purchase and anything that you do that's associated with production, you need to know as a salesperson, an ops person, or whoever, as you're supporting your customer, it's critical to their success. And then what happens is the buyer can go after lead time and price, but what they're really after is someone to tell them exactly when that part's going to show up and properly communicate along the way. Because you don't want to set that buyer up for failure and have that buyer lie to their production team, because then you're creating culture issues within your clientele that aren't really controlled by you, and you can't fix those things. So then you create this kind of havoc, and you want everybody in that building to be on TAKT's team. You want to say, okay, TAKT has this, she pulls through every time, versus the other way around.
Yeah, because your integrity means a lot to you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so I want to say this as a woman-owned business, but there may be other businesses that do this. But I found that you have a philosophy, a unique philosophy in manufacturing, and that is that you work to live, not live to work. And you actually have benefits that TAKT provides their employees based on that, because there are specific things that are important to you. So how do you, as a female-owned company, take care of your employees?
Sure. So we have a couple of things that we offer our employees. As I want to say I'm a single mom, but I'm not. My husband was in the military, special forces in the military. So he'd deploy all the time for 6 months, every 6 months. And working in the manufacturing industry, it was really hard for me to take sick days. It was really hard for me to take my work home because, facilities weren't paperless. Like I had to have tangible paper, and you can't leave with that for, ITAR purposes, things of that nature. So I went through quite a lot with raising my two children and dealing with being a military spouse. So when I started my company, I promised myself that I would be able to take my kids to school and pick them up from school. Now, mind you, we don't have set work schedules, right? As the work comes in is when we work here at TAKT. And I work all the time just because I own the company. But it was really important for a work-life balance for my employees. So I give them unlimited vacation, and there's no cap on how much vacation they take. And then also too, we are generational wealth oriented and generational health oriented. So I give up to $250 per employee per month to cover whatever type of fitness they want to encounter. And that's mostly to entice the CrossFit crowd, because that tends to be the most expensive gym membership you can get. But we cover their gym membership monthly as well.
And how would you say that your experiences, especially whenever you were working for machine shops, those years in the business, how did that shape you into the leader that you are now?
Sure. I have 4 employees now, so it's smaller than what I've been used to, but I've had up to 50 employees in this industry. And I've also worked for companies that were 4,500 headcount, and in the midst. But I would say I've tried a lot of different avenues of leadership. And I think listening is the most important thing that I've learned thus far. And then really becoming personal with people. A lot of people don't want to become personal because they're afraid, whatever will happen. And we really try to become personal with people so that way I can have empathy and sympathy in the right areas for my employees when they do have to take off. And I've been practicing that the last few years. When I was wet behind the ears, I was really aggressive in sales. So it was all about the numbers to me. And I would move past people who were hurting, and I wouldn't take the time that I needed to really understand what they were going through in order to support the team better. And over the years, I've learned to kind of overcome some of that. And it's not always about the numbers. It's about your employees and your customers and how they're feeling that day, and really trying to support them on a personal level.
And when it comes to your employees, I know we specifically talked about women, but I know that this also applies to any of your male employees. But being that your husband was deployed for 6 months at a time, can you speak to being a modern woman, being a breadwinner and taking on the children, taking care of the household, and how that has influenced you with your employees and showing them grace? Because that's a key term that you used a lot, is showing them grace.
Yeah. And it goes back to, we want to work so we can go live, right? I would say throughout, when my husband was deployed, raising 2 children, and then having to commute to work, all the things, 2 different children, 2 different age ranges, 2 different schools, getting everybody to where they needed to go on time. And then hopefully you're clocking in at 8:00. We are flex time. So with unlimited vacation, unless they're taking a whole day, it doesn't really matter where they are, what they're doing, as long as their job gets done. So if they have doctor's appointments, or if they have, school dance to attend, or recital or something of that nature, when it comes to parenting, regardless of who it is, male or female, they're able to go do those things. Because you only get one chance to do that as a parent. And a lot of people talk about how time flies with their children as they grow. And it does. So you want to be able to absorb as much as you can when it comes to your children, which is it's critical to my life. I gave up quite a bit of my kids' squishy small time for somebody else's dream. And I was building somebody else's dream essentially to swap that time. And I have a huge regret, but I also won't ever let it happen again. And I don't want it to happen for my employees. So it's critical that they get to spend family time. If it's, they have somebody that's, out on hospice, or somebody passed away, or they want to attend a funeral, or their best friend's having a baby. All of those things are life things, and they're critical to living our only one life we get here on earth, which is really important for me to let them do what they need to do, and experience those experiences.
I think it's wonderful. I mean, I really do. And I think that you've had so much happen in your career that gave you a different perspective, that's brought you to the place that you're at, and that you're actually able to extend that to your employees. What a benefit that is to them, all the way around, men and women both. So that kind of leads me to my next question. What strengths do you think women specifically bring to the manufacturing space?
Yeah. A lot of it, is going to be genetics and what we're born with and what we're God given. My opinion, I think, we have hardcore sympathy and empathy, which really allows us to fully understand people's needs, customers, employees, hierarchy. You want to go up in the chain, you're able to understand what everyone is requiring daily. And we have intuition, right? So we can know when we don't know. Like they say, moms know everything. We do. Just kidding. And I think that that's a huge trait. We also have finesse rather than brute force, which is really interesting when it comes to like processes and policies and procedures. We tend to think of other things outside of the box, because a lot of the mechanical portions of your day, we're kind of green to, just because naturally we don't tend towards that side of things. We tend more towards the policies, procedures, and people side of things, versus the numbers, tolerancing, and all of that kind of engineering mechanics. And there are some people who both genders, trend towards that side of the things with the mechanics and stuff like that. But it's important, I think, to have sympathy and empathy, and then understanding and having intuition. And I think those are huge traits that females bring to the table when it comes to manufacturing. And I just think we have, I would say, our skill set, we multitask, we are like master multitaskers. It just comes with the territory. And if you think about all the manufacturing plants you've physically been into, there's always one lady who knows everyone's name, who knows everyone's kids' names. She knows exactly what parts are shipping. She knows exactly what part number you're asking about. She knows when payment's coming in for that invoice. So it just speaks volumes to that one individual who's always only paid one salary, has to wear 8 different hats. And it predominantly, in my experience, has always been the lady in the shop.
Right. And you've been that lady in the shop.
Yeah.
So you're real familiar with the role.
Yeah, it gets exhausting.
Yeah. Well, my hat's off to those who do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. You're definitely, you feel needed daily. But that needed wears
a little too much.
Yeah, that needed wears out for sure.
So in the 14 years that you've been in this industry, what would you say are the biggest changes that you've seen?
I would say there are a couple of things. Obviously, there's more females in our industry. There's more female leadership in our industry, which is really exciting. I think there's more female engineers. There's more female machinists, people out on the shop floor. I think, ownership has become more open to hiring anyone, because everyone needs somebody. And I think just naturally it's occurred that the doors are being opened to females and minorities in our industry, just because of the need of having employees in our industry and bringing up the next gen. I also think that, technology is changing, right? So becoming, a lot of shops are becoming more green and paperless, which is allowing some of people like me, millennials who are very digital, to come in and feel at home and not feel so inundated with paper. And I think a couple of those things are are helping transcend those in the industry, I think, in getting younger people and minorities and females in the industry.
Right, because again, in our conversation, you were not always seen as an equal.
Oh no, yeah,
but now you are.
yeah, I said
So yeah. So in that regard, with more women coming into the industry, more women owning businesses, I and I would be, maybe it's bold to say, but I think women are just making themselves known,
yeah,
and maybe proving themselves.
sure.
What do you think?
I would say over the years, my biggest hurdle in this industry has never really been 100% the opposite sex of me. It has my biggest hurdles have always been other females not supporting other females in this industry. And I think as we grow, I'm experiencing more support from other females than I have ever had before in this industry, which is it's extremely important to me. I have 3 females on my team, and their success is my success. So no matter what they're wearing today, what they look like, they have better eyelashes than I do, their nails look better than mine. Yes, that's what I want on my team. I want somebody who looks better than me, who acts better than me, who's more professional than me, who has a bigger drive than me. That's who I want on my team. So we support women here solely. And I think that the industry is starting to take on to that. But previously it has not been that way.
Yeah, I've had some of that experience myself, but I really feel like there's been a great shift in that, and I like to attribute that to the millennials. Kudos to you. You and I kind of had this conversation. How I I love millennials. I think that they are the brightest. They're so bold. Um, they look at things whenever it goes wrong, instead of it being a failure, they look at it as what not to do. They're more risk takers. Um, and I feel like millennials just have more of a, I don't want to say presence, but maybe more confidence, because they're not shamed for their ideas. It's really embraced, and I think that has allowed them to maybe have the wherewithal to go into other industries where maybe older generations may have shied away from it. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Another thing that we do here at TAKT is once a quarter we pick a month that has some sort of ribbon or something associated. So, like May, we're picking May, and that's Mental Health Awareness Month. And we are taking some of our profits and we're going to be donating to a specific nonprofit that we've decided collectively as a team to support. And as a millennial, we like to know how we fit, right? We want to know exactly what we're doing here, what impact we have on the world. So it's extremely important to my company to give back to the community. And we are able to do so, which is really cool. And it kind of drives everybody and it gives us a sense of purpose outside of just what we do, which I think is really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I brought up that millennials are risk takers, and you had told me that's pretty much how TAKT was built. Was,
Yeah,
you thought, well,
it's still a little risky.
well, if you're on track to make 4 mil this year, I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We are super
Yeah.
blessed, thank you, Lord. But yeah, it is about risk taking. And I think millennials walk into a room instead of being like, oh my gosh, I don't know about this subject. They're like, yeah, man, I'm here to learn. Teach me.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
bold about not knowing things because that's what makes them better. And I think future tense, it was very much like, if I have to say yes to everything, because if they think that I don't know this, they're not going to trust me, and now
Mm-hmm.
it's like, man, I don't know that. Teach me your ways. And I think that's the difference that I really enjoy about millennials.
Yeah, well, when we chatted, I told you that there's a video that I watched that we did of you, and you are walking through a machine shop, and I mean, you are boss lady, just walking, strutting through that shop. And it was very impressive to me because I think back to when, I was your age, and I don't know that I would have had that confidence that you have, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah.
pretty spectacular.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're excited.
yeah,
We're excited. Yeah.
yeah. So you know, we've talked about a lot of different things, but what what do you want young women to know about being in the manufacturing and industrial space?
Sure.
Because you had some
Um,
cool thoughts on that.
yeah, I think it all starts with you don't you don't have to be a rocket scientist. And I'm not trying to dumb down my intelligence, but my undergrad's in fashion design and merchandising. And here I am today. You just have to have drive, and you have to have the will to want to learn more, and you have to have the entrepreneurial spirit to gather that information, because no one's going to sit down and teach you. You have to do it. You have to learn yourself, and you have to learn by asking questions to the right people who are going to teach you the right information. But yeah, with my undergrad, I graduated and I thought I was going to own a boutique and do custom gowns and all these things. And then I naturally needed a job. And geographically, where I was living, it was either work at the chicken farm or work at the metal conveyor belt manufacturing plant. And of course, I chose the metal belt plant, and I started in sales, and I ended up really enjoying it. And looking back on the last 14 years, in high school, I wanted to be in shop class because my dad's an auto mechanic. He owns his own auto service. And I really was intrigued by how things work mechanically, but shop class wasn't really for girls. So society pressured me otherwise, and I ended up in sewing class. And that's when I graduated and went off to fashion. But I slowly realized over the last 14 years, what I loved about the fashion industry wasn't, the glam and the colors and all the fabulousness. It was literally taking a raw material and turning it into a finished product. So, which is essentially manufacturing. I had to draft my own patterns. I had my own tolerances. All the pieces of my garment had to fit perfectly. And I think that that's where my love for manufacturing kind of lived. And then I, by fate, ended up in manufacturing. And I was born on the Space Coast, just south of Kennedy Space Center. And now we build rocket parts, So it all came together. So I would empower employers and empower future employees of manufacturing to know that even as a fashion major, I have been successful in this industry. And it doesn't take rocket science to figure it all out. There are those jobs, if you want one, go get it. But otherwise, it does not take rocket science to figure it out. It takes critical thinking, and it takes a drive to want to learn more, and just getting after it.
So, and do you have any takeaways that you would like men to know about women in manufacturing?
Yes, I would say, hey men, when you go home, who's there to take care of you? When you're sick, who takes care of you? Who makes you feel the best? Who's generally on your team rooting the hardest? And just think about that. That individual is somebody else's individual who's applying for the job. And then also too, when you see fashion design and merchandising on their resume, please don't put them in the no stack. That they are very capable, and they deserve the same opportunity as everybody else. I think that people from customer service industries are the best to hire for manufacturing, because you need more of that, because quality has to sell to machining, Machining has to sell to quality. Production has to sell to quality and machining. So everybody in your organization has to sell to one another in order to make a cohesive team. So that sales skills and the customer service skills is required in every role. And that's where predominantly the breakdown happens is, well, production, isn't on my team because they want me to make this part really fast and I don't have overtime and all the other things. The customer service level, if you can find somebody in the customer service industry, I've hired waiters, I've hired bartenders, and they make superb individuals for manufacturing because process-wise, they know exactly what needs to happen. I mean, the food industry is manufacturing. Have it your way, right? Subway. They're essentially building a sandwich to the customer specs. So I think that you just got to think outside the box and allow everybody to have an opportunity to work for your company, and you'll be successful.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Okay, so now I have I have a few fun questions for you.
Okay.
Well, I say fun. What is the most important element in starting your day off the best possible way?
I walk 3 miles on the treadmill.
Good for you.
Yeah, I walk 3 miles on the treadmill, which is essentially just an hour of walking. It's something that I haven't been able to do in previous roles, but health is really important to me, and being able to move around with my kids as I age. Not that I'm old or anything, but it's important to me. And being married to a special forces operator, like we go on 6.5 mile rucks, like we did one last weekend. So I got to be able to keep up with my husband, or he might trade me in. But yeah, so my mental clarity is really important to me, just because I have a lot of moving pieces throughout the day, and it's really easy to get caught up in those moving pieces. But being able to take an hour to myself in the mornings is critical to starting my day, because then I feel fresh. I've checked all my personal boxes of getting fitness in daily. And it really transcends my day.
Yeah, I get up at 3:30 a.m. and I go to the gym, and that sets the tone for me myself.
Totally.
It gives you a lot of time to think.
Yeah, I agree. It's where I get my audiobooks in. It's where I listen to my podcasts. I also check emails. I get ahead on my emails while I'm on the treadmill. So I'm multitasking because that's what we do.
Yep, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could go on a 2-week vacation, where would you go and why?
Most people would pick a really lavish place. I really love America, first off. Second off, I geographically live very far from my family, just because of being a military spouse. And my family lives in Florida. So if I got a free 2-week vacation, I would post up at my parents' house in Florida, and I would let my kids love on their grandparents.
Yeah. I have family in Florida too, so I get it.
It's hard with school age kids, right? Because they have to be in school and they only get set amount of breaks, and then Southwest wants to skyrocket the prices during spring break. So $3,600 for 2 people to go, and it's too much. Generally, it's taxing on a household. But yeah, I would choose to have family time versus go to France.
Yeah. Okay. And if you've had a rough day, what do you do to reset yourself? Bourbon is allowed.
Yeah. I generally will get on my Peloton, or I'll read a raunchy murder mystery novel.
Oh, you go, girl.
Yeah, those are 2 things. I really love art, so I have a lot of those small things that I'm working on that I would tap into. But when I have hard days or hard things happen, I generally turn to fitness because it makes me feel better.
Yeah. Releases those endorphins.
For sure. And I can get aggressive without hurting somebody's feelings.
That's where Taekwondo would come in handy.
That's right. Punch bag. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I do.
Okay. I'm a scuba diver. I don't know if you are.
No, definitely not.
Okay, but if you were,
Yeah.
what would you most want to see?
I mean, growing up in Florida, everyone teaches you don't go near the coral, don't touch the coral. So I probably would want to touch and be near the coral. I would want to see a coral reef of some sort with all different kinds of wildlife working cohesively together. Sea turtles are also something that I would love to be a part of and see. But yeah, those two things I would definitely want to do.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience that the marine life around a coral reef is fantastic. And sea turtles are spectacular. And I went diving in St. Thomas, and one actually surfaced right next to me and was like right in my face. And I was kind of taken aback, but then it was just like so cool. And then whenever it went back down to the bottom, I followed it down. So
yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I would love to be a part of something like that for sure.
Yeah. It is something to behold, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I think we have some comments.
Okay.
So, Laura, you're going to read those, right? Because you put my screen too far away.
Maybe I can grab this other microphone here and read them.
I can't read that far away.
Let's see. Sandeep says, these days, so much hurdles facing manufacturing industries.
True.
And then I'm not sure who LinkedIn user is because it doesn't show up on my end, but women empowering women. Love it.
Yes, we all need to hold each other up.
That's right. That's right. Takes a village.
And then we have here, Malik says, women usually avoid risk, and the risk is basic learning in leadership.
Yeah.
Appreciate that feedback.
That's all we got.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to close out the show. And Jessica, just thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed having you on the show. If you have any precision part needs for procurement, please reach out to Jessica. You can reach out to both of us on LinkedIn, find us, connect with us. We'd love to continue the conversation. If you're interested in being a guest on my show, again, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to have you. It's all about building your personal brand. We can talk about your company if you want, but it's more about building your personal brand, and it does not matter the position that you have. I'd love to hear all aspects of women in manufacturing. So thanks again, and see you on the flip side.